Welcome to Loaded Talk. I am Frank, the third most popular, politician. I'm third most popular politician in Florida, in St. Pete, District 13, in one race. Anyway, along with me
Hello, planet Earth.
is old Captain Charlie himself, greeting everybody from the USS Franker Prize. I don't know. Well, we've had a couple weeks off. I'm going to lead with kind of my bad. The last episode we put up, we had that audio issue that I didn't catch for about a week. But I got that fixed up, and there was a secondary issue I found after the fact where there was just computer noise, like bing bing, that would pop in every now and then. It wasn't so bad to drive me nuts, but if it drove you nuts, apologies. I think the episode was good anyway, but that's okay. All right, so since coming back from the mountains, the hills of Tennessee, Donald Trump tends to suck all the oxygen out of the room all the time for the news. You know, if he can be on a camera or be mentioned by the news, he will be, and no one will be able to talk about anything else. So we're gonna start with Donald Trump because he's been creating some stories or something like that. Yeah, we'll jump to his Truth Social. And they're all called truths on Truth Social. So everything he puts on the internet is a truth, which is great, Donald Trump. All caps, people listening at home. Our nation is now third world and dying. The American dream is dead. The radical left anarchists have stolen our presidential election, and with it, the heart of our country. American patriots are being arrested and held in captivity like animals, while criminals and leftist thugs are allowed to roam the streets, killing and burning with no retribution. Millions are flooding through our open borders, many from prisons and mental institutions. Crime and inflation are destroying our very way of life. And then, page 2 is what he said. Now, also all caps except for page, the word page. Now, illegal leaks from a corrupt and highly political Manhattan District Attorney's Office, which has allowed new records to be set in violent crime and whose leader is funded by George Soros, indicate that with no crime being able to be proven and based on old and fully debunked by numerous other prosecutors, Fairy Tale, the far and away leading Republican candidate and former President of the United States of America, will be arrested on Tuesday of next week. Protest. Take our nation back! Exclamation point. So, that obviously created some waves. That was that on a Sunday, I think? And so he puts that out there, and everyone's just like, Donald Trump's getting arrested on Tuesday? And so this is all about the Stormy Daniels payment. He, in the run-up, so back in like 2006, I think it was a golf tournament or something like that, and Stormy Daniels was there, and she wanted to be on The Apprentice. And he was like, yeah, maybe you come back and show me how much you want to be on The Apprentice, allegedly. And then, allegedly got down with the get down, is what Stormy says, and he did have that other gal from the same year he had to kind of hush up, so I'm believing Stormy on this one. But, so there's that. And so, in the run-up to the presidential election, I guess before that, Stormy starts shopping the story around. And she's trying to get a little bit of cash from National Enquirer, something like that. And so, National Enquirer, who the owner of is buddies with Trump, kind of strung her along. And there was kind of this like, oh, I think we'll do something. We're not going to do anything. And it kind of all got squashed, So, no money for Stormy. Well, then Trump runs for president. And then it's just like, hey, let's try shopping that story again, And so National Enquirer, I think, the point person again and kind of hollers at Trump. And so the accusation, or, all this is alleged, the story as far as I understand it, is, he had his attorney, Michael Cohen, who was his fixer. That's how they describe him, or he described himself, I don't know which. And he's like, okay, deal with this, And so I think it cost like $130,000 that they paid Stormy, that Cohen paid Stormy. And basically on the books of the Trump organization, like in the bookkeeping, it was put in as a legal retainer. for a bigger amount of money. So there's a retainer for, I don't know, $200,000, I forget. Um, and they're like, well, that's not proper. That's actually not the way you're supposed to account for it. And so people go, oh, okay, so what kind of crime are we talking about? It's like, well, that's a misdemeanor. It's like, oh, okay. And so that was from, 2015 or something? The election was 2016, so it was 2015 that happened? It's like, yeah. It's like, okay, what's the statute of limitations on that? Like, well, 2 years in New York. It's like, okay, I think we're outside of that. They go, but if he did a misdemeanor, well, first of all, if he didn't, if he was doing it for his campaign in order to win the presidency, that makes it a campaign finance violation, a felony, which also might be outside of the statute of limitations, because if it was, it's like 6 years the statute of limitations for that, and so once again, you do the math and carry the one, and it's like, well, I think we're outside of that. So not to mention, this is a state district attorney. Election crimes are federal crimes, so they don't even have grounds to take those charges. And so now I think what they're trying to do is say that committing a misdemeanor for the purposes of doing this federal felony charge therefore makes it, I guess, a new felony or something. I don't know. It's convoluted and it's weird. But Trump goes, I'm going to be arrested. And then the world goes, let me see. So right after that, feel free to flip over here. New York prepares for possible unrest if Donald Trump is indicted. So, like, the DA is kind of going, like, we're not really saying much about this. Like, I don't know. There's probably nothing to be had. And then, law enforcement officials in New York on Tuesday continue preparing for possible unrest on the streets of Manhattan as a grand jury investigating Donald Trump over hush money payment to the adult filmmaker and star Stormy Daniels appeared poised to complete its work by criminally indicting the former president. Barriers were brought to the area around Manhattan Criminal Courthouse in the lower part of the island. Uniformed police were out in force, so were reporters and protesters. Bunch of people holding up signs, no one's above the law. But basically, they're setting up barricades. They're setting up barricades and preparing for, like, a riot. And everyone, many people in the press, like what do you say, the protests take our nation back. They're like, this is, like, after January 6th, he's still going to say this kind of stuff. Which is a fair point, where it's like, he knows what he's doing this, like, first time, maybe not, but somebody even said, he didn't even say peacefully. He didn't say, well, what did he say at January 6th? It was like, peacefully and patriotically protest. It's like, he didn't even say peacefully, patriotically. It's like, oh, so now that matters for January 6th. But yeah, so everyone was kind of tight-lipped, but it sure looked like the city itself is preparing for all hell to break loose, which seems to telegraph that they do intend on arresting the man. Of course, Tuesday has come and gone. It hasn't occurred, but what are your thoughts on there, Chuck?
Well, I mean, initially, the tweets itself, with being in all caps, looked
the
like...
truths.
I'm sorry, the truths. The truths look like they could have been scrolled at the beginning of a Star Wars movie.
Oh, that would be great.
Basically, even how it read, it just sounded like that, too. In a world.
That would be great. Somebody, I hope the internet does that, puts that font on it, and it gives us a nice scroll.
With the music.
Oh, yeah. And then just, fades out. Just tracks down to just Trump's hair. But yeah, it's, the thing that got me about it is it seems like they were first, so this DA and like the state, what was that person? The Attorney General of the state or something like that. Part of the thing that she ran on is like, Trump is getting arrested. Like, we are taking down Trump, which is not really how crime enforcement's supposed to go, You're supposed to, like, find a crime and then find the person that did that crime in order to solve the crime. you're not supposed to find me the man and I'll find you the crime, as they used to do in the Soviet Union. That's kind of like the opposite of justice. It's like, just keep digging into all his stuff until we find something. And to find, like, a relatively, I mean, you're allowed to sign, I can pay you money and ask you not to talk. Like, I'm allowed to do that. And you can say, like, all right, well, here's my number. Put a little contract together. I'll say, well, all right, Charlie, you can't tell people about the horrible things I do here. And you go, that's fine, as long as the money's green. And that's legal. There's nothing wrong with that. That's just a private contract between two people. Skeezy, okay. But, illegal, no. And there was already a federal, like an FEC investigation into this, and they decided not to bring charges. And, maybe you can say, well, they didn't want to charge a sitting president, and maybe that's true, but people get election finance charges all the time. Like AOC, I think, was paying her fella, I think. I know, what's her face out of Minnesota? She's the Muslim member of the squad. She wears, oh, shoot.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, her name just flew out of my head. But she had the same thing where I think she was married or something, but she started, like, dating one of her campaign people, or maybe married him, I don't know. But, he got very highly paid. And it's like, just out of campaign money. And people have done it with siblings, and they, even the Trump presidential election, I remember people were getting mad. I forget if it was election 1 or 2. I think it was 2. But his kids ran, like, a branch, or they ran, I don't know. But you could basically hide the money by saying, like, this is being paid to the re-elect Trump company to hold the events or whatever. Then after that, it's like, well, that's a company that doesn't have the same disclosure requirements as if the campaign wrote a check to each person involved, And so people are like, oh, that's kind of cloudy, but these people, I started realizing, like when I ran for office, why these people cheat so much with, like, campaign money, why they get the $800 haircuts, spend all the money on getting new clothes, all the stuff they do where people are like, what are you doing? And it's because they have to hustle donations from business people, okay? And so say that you are, let's just say you're Jeff Bezos, okay? And you got Amazon, right? Well, part of your compensation package might be being provided with a car, And maybe it's not considered, maybe, let's not do Bezos, but, say you got to go out and hit up customers. You got to get sales. You're a sales guy. So it makes sense for a company car. Oh, you got a company car. Some people might, I don't know. And so then they got the company car, oil changes, all this stuff that's kind of, free because it goes through the company. There could be other ways, people write off, arguably personal expenses sometimes through a company. And I think the millionaire class and billionaire class has probably gotten very good at that, where it's like, oh, we'll take a loan here, do this, boom. It's all technically legal and technically not taxable income. Politicians can't do that because they don't do anything, Their whole job is getting elected, and so they can't, like, get a company car. They, if they want a $400 haircut, they're supposed to pay for that with their money. But during campaigns, suddenly, you as the candidate becomes the product, and you can really make certain things make sense, I kind of was coming at it from a different way, where I was just like, I don't have that much money. Like, now the problem is, like, if I wanted to just buy this thing with my money, then I have to, like, write it as a donation to my campaign or a loan or whatever. But it's like, the rules make it harder to spend your own money, and, I mean, let alone spend, like, company money or something like that, which I get that part. But, like, it's harder to spend your own money on your campaign than it is to spend your campaign money on yourself,
Wow.
But, why did I get on that rant? Oh, but okay, but so these people, they cheat all the time. They do all these campaign finance violations all the time, and it's like it's a slap on the wrist. It's a pay $5,000 out of your campaign, but it's like pay $5,000 and don't you do it again. Like Hillary Clinton, when she was going against Trump, they found out that she paid for Russian collusion investigation stuff. Was it Crossfire or something? Anyway, this whole document that ended up leading to investigations and doing all this kind of crud. Like, it was like, oh, ends up that wasn't something they just acquired. It's something that they produced. They paid this much money to do it, and you can't do that. And it's like, okay, well, what do we do about that? It's like, pay a little money. It's a misdemeanor. It's like, okay. So, I mean, that's the standard, I mean, if it's a misdemeanor, it's a misdemeanor. You can't turn it into a murder charge. But it seems like everyone's so desperate to get Trump, like, in handcuffs or something, that they're willing to just kind of just dive past all this.
And he's almost welcoming it, though.
Well, yeah, it's going to be great for him. I mean, he has to know that.
Right.
I mean, like, this is one of the best things, because that's the other side of it, is the politics, right? So you got the get Trump, and everyone's get Trump. Like, I mean, just salivating. People in the press have been saying, they haven't been asking, can we legally do this? Like, are these is there even going to be a trial? Like, will this stick, or is this just for show? They're not even asking that. They're just like, what do you think it's going to be like when Trump gets arrested? Like, are they going to show him in handcuffs? Or, they're going to make him do that waddle walk down the thing, looking all sad, and his hair's probably drooping. Maybe he didn't have time to spray it, and it's like, oh, that's what your hair looks like normal. People are just salivating over like the arrest, but no one's asking like, why are we even doing this? Or like, some people are thankfully mentioning how much this is going to help. I saw that Chris Rock was at Adam Sandler got the Mark Twain Award for humor, and so Chris Rock was there to talk, and he said something. He's like, you people are about to arrest Donald Trump. Don't you know that's going to make him more popular than ever? He's like, it's like arresting Tupac. He's just going to sell more records. And it's like, that's 100% correct. 100% correct. But yeah, so the Trump people are playing it up, and I think they're making good hay out of it. But I always wonder. So, my thought is a lot of these Democrats still see Trump as the weakest candidate to go against. They beat him with a corpse last time, and they got a corpse again. So, like, Trump drives out not just the pro vote, but the anti vote in huge numbers. So I think they really do want him as the candidate. I think the press is aware that this helps his odds. I think definitely all the elected Democrats are aware. And I think they think it's best odds, or the best path forward is to, stack Trump on one side. I don't think Democrat voters maybe are as crazy about it because, the last time they did that, they got Trump as a president. And they didn't seem too happy about Trump as a president. But a lot of that was from the press going like, let's get this buffoon to be the nominee. And we'll just wipe him out, And of course that didn't happen because Hillary's horrible. But they're going to roll those dice again, Now, let me see. This is what I want to get
I picture this cauldron, and like the left is pushing ingredients in, and Trump's like, oh, let me get my spoon and throw my own ingredients in.
Right.
And he's just over there stirring it. Where's my Trump water? This needs more Trump water.
I mean, he has shown time and time again that when the press comes after him, he is able to flip that to his own advantage. I mean, he's done it over and over again. It's one of the problems with his second attempt, him versus Biden. Like, he I don't know, he did that whole campaign really weird. Like, he could have been like, look at all this great stuff I did, and then waited to get attacked and do the counterpunch thing and all that. But he kind of just, I don't know, he bumbled around the whole damn thing. Even the debates, like that first one when everyone's like, let's see if Joe Biden's even capable of speaking. And instead of letting him not be capable of speaking, he's like, I want to interrupt this guy constantly. Just look like a bully picking on an elderly man.
Yep.
And that's when everyone's like, we're so tired of this type. We don't want a bully. We just want some serenity now. That's what we want. But yeah, no, Trump stirs that pot like nobody else. Okay. There was. So in addition to like the barricades, the DA, whose name is Alvin Bragg, he sent an email. You can switch over if you want.
Oh, cookies.
Oh, what? It's CNN. I don't even have a way to do this. All right, well, screw it. Hey, wait. I don't do that. How do we do that? Be quiet. Where is he talking? Why don't you talk? All right. Basically, just in addition to like barricades being set up, the DA, whose name's Alvin Bragg, he sent out an internal email to everybody to ensure that any specific or credible threats against the office will be fully investigated and that the proper safeguards are in place so that all 1,600 of us have a secure work environment. So he sent out this email that didn't mention Trump at all. That was just like, we will not be bullied, will not be intimidated, we will maintain, we enforce the law fairly and wonderfully, and we're going to keep doing that in spite of whatever happens, and even if there's violence and all this. It's like okay, like they're pursuing an arrest, it's it's happening. So one way that the Trump team has been kind of smart. Hold on one second. On this is making political hay because he's got a primary to win. Really, I mean there are other people that are in and that are going to get in probably. They don't really stand a chance. I think Nikki Haley is running to hopefully be the VP to DeSantis, and I think what's his name, Bhattacharya, who's like a business guy. He's pretty savvy when it comes to business stuff. He used to say he was a libertarian, but now he says he's a Republican. But I started thinking, I'm like, I wonder if he's running to be Trump's VP because they're friends, and like he doesn't really go after Trump negatively. And he's like a business guy, a successful finance guy, and he's of I think Indian descent. So makes the ticket less white bread, But they want all the Republicans to respond. They just like, all right, well, how come? The big one, so DeSantis is obviously the big one, even though he hasn't thrown his hat in. That's obviously the person that Trump's like the most insecure about, just based on him always wiling out about it. Okay, well, I'll do this first. But so finally, someone asked DeSantis about the possible indictment. Because, I guess as the governor, they would have to extradite the criminal and all that or take part in. So someone asked DeSantis, and we might take a couple breaks in this clip, but here's what DeSantis says. All right, that one's working.
So I've seen rumors swirl. I have not seen any facts yet, and so I don't know what's going to happen. But I do know this: the Manhattan District Attorney is a Soros-funded prosecutor, and so he, like other Soros-funded prosecutors, they weaponize their office to impose a political agenda on society at the expense.
Real quick, the Soros thing, so Soros, big billionaire, big progressive. So he came out and he's like, it is not true that I finance these guys. It's like, look, I gave, I forget what it was, $1 million to the blah, blah, blah group, because they were raising money for Alvin Bragg. And so I gave $1 million to them in support of Alvin Bragg. And then they gave $1 million to Alvin Bragg. I did not finance, I don't even know the guy. I didn't support him. It's like, oh. Okay, fair, I guess.
He has downgraded over 50% of the felonies to misdemeanors. He says he doesn't want to even have jail time for the vast, vast majority of crimes. And what we've seen in Manhattan is we've seen the crime rate go up, and we've seen citizens become less safe. And so you're talking about this situation with, and look, I don't know what goes into paying hush money to a porn star to secure silence over some type of alleged affair. I can't speak
I
to
didn't
that.
notice that part earlier. All the press laughing about that, because I think that's DeSantis's subtle little jab. Like, I can't speak to paying hush money to a porn star, and I think that's gonna bite him in the butt. But what were you saying before that about downgrading felonies to misdemeanors? So the status quo has been like even violent crimes and stuff. Just downgrade it. Let's minimize who goes to jail. And then with this situation, though, they're trying to somehow upgrade a misdemeanor into, federal jail. All right.
But what I can speak to is that if you have a prosecutor who is ignoring crimes happening every single day in his jurisdiction, and he chooses to go back many, many years ago to try to use something about porn star hush money
Got it on there
payments,
twice.
that's an example of pursuing a political agenda and weaponizing the office. And I think that that's fundamentally wrong. I also think it's important to point out when you're talking about these Soros-funded prosecutors, yes, they may do a high-profile politicized prosecution, and that's bad, but the real victims are ordinary New Yorkers, ordinary Americans in all these different jurisdictions, that they get victimized every day because of the reckless political agenda that these Soros DAs bring to their job.
Anyway, probably about to say more. But I think what's smart about this from the DeSantis point of view is he's mainly leaning on, anti-Soros, who's, big. I mean, he is a giant financier, and he does get rich by sinking the value of currencies for countries. So not necessarily a great guy. As a kid, he survived. You know how he survived the Holocaust?
No.
He helped the Nazis find the Jews because he was I think he might have already been on his own though. Like, he was a kid, and I think maybe his parents were already gone. But like, he was a young Jewish boy in Nazi Germany. But he did say, like, basically that he's got no regrets about it, which is like, it's one thing surviving, like, especially if your parents are dead and you're surrounded by Nazis. It's like, what
Do what you have to do.
yeah, it's survival, man.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to judge anyone too harshly for that as a Jewish boy surrounded by Nazis. But you'd think maybe later on in life, when you can reflect, you could say, like, it was the only way I can survive, but I feel bad about it. Like, I do know that I sent lots of people to die, and I know I only did it to survive, so I know, like, I don't feel that I'm evil, but, like, it weighs on me, No, that's not what he said. He's like, oh, that's fine. But anyway, so I think, spending some time attacking Soros is a wise way to, like, end blue state justice systems, as a way to kind of go on the attack of, Democrats are doing stuff bad. Look at how these cities are going to hell. Implied if I was president, maybe we could do something about it. But like focusing on the bigger issues instead of just, he got his porn star digs in there at Trump, but I think the dance is pretty good so far. I'll let him keep going.
Ignore crime and they empower criminals, and that hurts people. Hurts a lot of people every single day.
Hurts my feelings.
These Soros district attorneys are a menace to society, and I'm just glad that I'm the only governor in the country that's actually removed one from office during my
Tampa.
tenure.
Yeah. Well, drinking his juice in the hood.
And in terms of we are not involved in this, won't be involved in this. I have no interest in getting involved in some type of manufactured circus by some Soros DA.
And that also,
he's trying to do a political spectacle. He's trying to virtue signal for his base. I've got real issues I got to deal with here in the state of Florida. We're obviously shutting down CBDC, which is important. We've got so many things pending in front of the legislature.
Just real quick, I'll let him wrap up after that. But I just forgot what he said. I was like, I'll let him talk a little bit longer. But no, once again, going into the the circus aspect of it. It is like like weaponizing the legal system, all of that making that a political spectacle. Um, I just realized it's going to be a lot harder to put in the audio this way now I've been jumping in. Anyway, but making that political spectacle, it does show like, hey, corrupt politicians this way. We don't participate with these corrupt politicians that are doing just political theater. So he gets to communicate that. But, I mean, what else describes the Trump years of presidency but a circus? It was a constant chaotic circus. And it's one of the reasons he didn't get elected is people were so tired of it. And granted, a lot of the circus was created by, the media the media made lots of claims that ended up not being so. But Trump's White House had tons of leaks that would create some of these things. And, Trump likes chaos. He likes operating in sort of a chaotic environment. So he might have even been like for, some of these leaks that, he hated. I don't know. But I know there was a lot of exhaustion for like the Trump years of like everything's the end of the world. Like, does it have to be the end of the world every day? And like, granted right now we have we got issues with the dollar. We've got, they're raising interest rates again. I'm sure they're going to print some more money to help with that. We got banks collapsing here and there. It feels like it could be more like the end of the world. But people just don't talk about it as much. It just feels calmer because the old man is dead. And, he just comes out and then everything's fine. Yeah, let's see if there's anything else he's got to say here.
I've got to spend my time on issues that actually matter to people. I can't spend my time worrying about things of that nature. So we're not going to be involved in it anyway. I'm fighting for Floridians, and I'm fighting back against Biden. That's what I do every single day.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty strong ending, fighting against Biden every single day. Like, still not running for president, but, going out there and just like, the state, we've got to do this, and I fight against Biden in the state. The thing about central bank digital currency, CBDC, that is the end of the world. If we get a CBDC, like, they can literally control every single purchase and every dollar because you won't have a physical dollar anymore. They just won't exist. And so they'll be able to say, you've bought enough meat this month that I don't think you're really considering your environmental impact. Now your money doesn't buy meat. Or let's say a Christian conservative president gets in. This is why Democrats should be concerned too. Christian conservative regime, they go, oh, you know what, dollars can't be spent on abortions. We're not saying you can't have an abortion. You just can't use U.S. currency on abortions. Like there's things like this, or
guns.
You can't spend. You can't spend money on guns. You can't spend money on drag shows. You can't spend money, or if you're gonna buy a big old truck, that's not environmental friendly. So maybe instead of your dollar being worth $1, maybe towards the gas guzzling thing, it's worth 75 cents. So you just need that many more dollars to get it. So it's a penalty, But all those are possible. We'd never do that. Right. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. It's like, well, the government's always treated its people nicely. When has anything ever gone wrong at the hands of one's own government? But yeah, I think that's, so that, when you listen to it, the reason I played that whole long clip is when you listen to it in total, like, yeah, he got that little thing in there about, like, I don't know what it's like to do hush money payments to porn actresses or porn stars. And then you got a little second thing in there where he mentioned the porn star deal. But in the context, I mean, who did he talk about the most during that?
He just talked about supporting Floridians for the most part, and then basically taking down anyone who supports the way Soros.
Yeah, like it was like Soros funded DAs, like Bragg, not by name, but like, yes, George Soros funded DAs in general. Like, he spent most of his time going after like basically Democratic district attorneys and sort of this corrupt thing, and saying that he thought the whole Trump indictment thing is nonsense and political hit job, and that he's not going to participate, right? And so you hear that and you think, well, all right, that's Not a bad response. You know, who could get mad at that? The answer is MAGA. Let's see.
DeSantis is very good with PR. I'm impressed.
His team, I was reading this thing. I don't have it pulled up. Someday I'm going to get this thing to not bug me so much in my ear. Apparently, press has been kind of scrambling, trying to get a nice in with the campaign, with the group, you know, the DeSantis team, because odds are he's going to be announcing his run for presidency before too long here. And so, you know, you just want someone already kind of embedded, someone you can text or whatever. And the DeSantis team has a very adversarial relationship with the press. They just don't. You know, they'll just say, no. And like I saw this thing the other day. Somebody was asking, somebody sent one of the press people a question about, I guess there's a lawsuit challenging one of the laws that has to do with trans or LGBT or something like that, one of the Florida laws. And they're looking for comment for their article. And so she replied, we don't comment on ongoing, not legislation, whatever, ongoing lawsuits, you know, investigations. Also, I've attached a GIF. And so the GIF was a GIF of DeSantis. And what did it say? It's like, it's a scam or something like that. It's whatever. But, you know, it's a stunt. That's what it said. It's a stunt. And so that's what they're like, we're not going to tell you. And then here's a GIF where it's like, it's a stunt. And so they'll just like stonewall them. And as much as like, you know, I believe in transparency and all that kind of stuff, you see where he's coming from when the press has made it clear that they are the Democratic Party. It's difficult for someone in a different party, you know. Like I was telling at our Pinellas Libertarian meeting, somebody was talking about, you know, thinking about running for some sort of county seat, you know. And so he's like, oh, you know, you won't get any good press. I know that. I was like, well, if you're only running against a Republican, you probably will get good press. Because, like, that's when libertarians get the most love, when the press thinks we're peeling votes away from Republicans. And suddenly they'll do Newsweek or what have you. So, like in Georgia, with Herschel Walker in that race, Chase Oliver was going. He did a great job. He good debates and all that kind of stuff. But it was such a tight race. And Chase Oliver, I forget how many points he was getting. You know, nothing huge, but because it was essentially 50-50 with Herschel Walker and Warnock, you know, suddenly like, look, this is the young libertarian that's really doing things in this race, you know. So they wrote an article. I think the headline was what was it? Gay and armed or something like that. But you know, it showed like the Gadsden flag that had the rainbow because Chase is gay, and but they had this whole like glowing write up on them, and like in a national thing. It's like, of course, if we take points away from that team, press loves us. But anyway, so all that to say, it's understandable why, you know, they're just going to say bad things about you. And like Trump was different, you know. Every time he walked to a car, to a plane, the press would stand there. He'd chat him up for like 45 minutes. He'd say wild stuff. Some of it didn't shake out to be true, and like, but he gave them more access than like any president I've ever seen, because he would just stop and talk to them, and, like over and over and over again. He loves being on camera. He loves talking, you know. Well, speaking of that, so with DeSantis, none of that seemed too crazy. It seemed like a pretty level-headed, not anti-Trump, he didn't make too much hay, right? Well, Newsweek. Yeah, it actually worked. MAGA rages against DeSantis remarks on possible Trump arrest. Weasel. Well, yeah, just weasel like that. All right, former President Donald Trump's closest supporters are raging against his likely 2024 rival, Ron DeSantis, after the Florida governor broke his silence to deliver what they believe to be a milquetoast remarks ahead of Trump's likely indictment by the Manhattan District Attorney later this week. Speaking of that news conference, he then accused prosecutor Alvin Bragg of being backed by liberal megadonor George Soros, a Jewish man. See, they throw that in there because if you insult him, it's anti-Semitic. Seriously, seriously.
Crazy.
No, if you go after George Soros, it's because he's Jewish. It's like, no, it's because all the things he's doing. Like, yeah, I thought so, Hitler. He's become a catch-all dog whistle against the Democratic donor class with the American right because they hate the Jews. All right. But while DeSantis bashed Bragg for his decision to weaponize his office to impose a political agenda on society at the expense of the rule of law, blah, 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 he declined to commit to supporting Trump or assisting in his extradition to New York, saying he was not interested in being involved in a manufactured political circus. I've got real issues to deal with, he told reporters. All right, let's see what some Trump people said here. DeSantis is the Trojan horse we thought he was. Mike Lindell from My Pillow added, I just want to put out there how disgusting he is. You're better than this, former Trump advisor Steve Bannon said of DeSantis on his War Room podcast. That was a weasel approach. That's where the weasel came from.
Bannon.
So DeSantis thinks that Dems weaponizing law to indict President Trump is a manufactured circus isn't a real issue, Donald Trump Jr. wrote. Pure weakness. Now we know why he was silent all weekend. He's totally owned by Karl Rove, Paul Ryan, and his billionaire donors. 100% controlled opposition. Let's see if there is more. Space laser. Issues that matter. Weaponization of our government against the political opponents. So everybody's... what does McCarthy say? Doesn't matter if it's President Trump or Democrat. Our justice system shouldn't be used. Okay, well, that doesn't say anything. So anyway, MAGA's freaking out, but in part, it's like I know Donald Trump Jr. took part in putting a video out that had it wasn't the full 3 minutes. You know, they'd have 30 seconds and it'd be edited, and so it's like, oh, I'm not. It made the clip seem to imply that DeSantis was saying that Trump manufactured the circus. The selective edit. And, you know, of course, you got to throw the porn star comment in there, too. But, you know, so it makes DeSantis look like he's like, I don't know anything about paying off porn stars. I'm not getting involved in this manufactured circus, you know. And people are like, that's job. And, you know, even this, like, this doesn't matter. It's like he just railed against it for a while, but he's the governor of Florida. What's he supposed to do about the New York district attorney? And, like, it's not like if... So Trump gets indicted, let's say, on whatever day. He gets indicted and they go, okay, we're going to extradite you to New York. DeSantis can't say no.
Right.
Like, that's not how it works. Like, there are actual rules in place. And, like, the only way he can say no is if the paperwork, like, misspells his name, or if they say, we need to extradite Donald Trump because Mike Lindell robbed a bank, you know. And then you go, well, that's not the same guy, you know. And then you go, no, you can't do it. But it's just like those. That's pretty much it. Those are like the limits, you know. Like, other than that, if you do a crime in another state and you go back to your home state, that state's obligated to hand you over unless there's something, you know. I think there theoretically could be something else, but it's a lot of it. I mean, it has to be like wrongfully accused, basically, you know. It's like, oh, that's a different Charlie Friedlander. You mix it up. They have a different middle initial, you know. So yeah, MAGA's all freaked out and they're trying to really take advantage of it, but they're coming off a little crazy.
No.
All right, and so the week goes on, you know. So Trump campaign has to try and make this, for some reason, instead of making it a Soros issue or a Democrat issue, he wants it to be a DeSantis issue. I mean, for obvious reasons, he's got a campaign. But he didn't get arrested on Tuesday. And then, you know, grand jury met, I think, on Wednesday. Didn't get arrested then, so it goes on. So then Trump took to, I can pull this off of Insider. Let's see if we got, hey, all right. Look, Chris Rock's over there. Oh, he's about to get slapped. Pop! That's hard every time. I haven't seen it. Anyway, what kind of person can charge another person, in this case, a former president of the United States, who got more votes than any sitting president in history and leading candidate, by far, for the Republican nomination with a crime when it is known by all that no crime has been committed, and also that potential death and destruction in such a false charge could be catastrophic for our country. Why and who would do such a thing? Only a degenerate psychopath that truly hates the USA. So Trump did not turn the temperature down. He went from, protest, take the country back, and people were like, that seems coded, that seems January 6th, to being like, if I get arrested, there will be death and destruction. Believe that. So, that's how things have been progressing. What do you think about his latest truth?
Well, it was interesting. I was just noting the capitalization in
Right.
his comments. Crime was capitalized.
I know, but not all the words this time.
Right. It was just, yes, interesting.
He always he has a weird way with. There's not often misspellings, but when it comes to punctuation and capitalization, he is all over the place with it. I don't.
Maybe, I wonder if he does it to connect, to show his followers, his supporters, that it's him and not somebody else doing his tweets. I mean, clearly.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. That could be. I think he might just be incapable. I think that's just. I don't know. He's just like, I feel like this right now. I mean, with his thumbs, though. But,
smashing his face bar.
I think it's just anytime he feels like, he's raising his voice, like, capital letters now. All right, so I probably shouldn't have scrolled. So that went on, and then, this is what I want. Okay, so then we get towards the end of the week here. And they're saying, all right, well, Trump's not going to get, you can do it. Trump's not going to be picked up this week, because part of it is... Okay, so one source told Daily Mail they're having trouble convincing the jury to swallow the case. It's a weak case and has caused division at the DA's office. But bombshell new documents obtained by the DailyMail.com show that Trump's former attorney, Michael Cohen, claimed in a 2018 letter that he was not reimbursed by his client or his business for the hush money payments to Daniels. So Michael Cohen, the star witness against Trump, who has been convicted of lying under oath for perjury, so he's a convicted liar, and the star witness that Trump did something wrong. And ends up, he wrote a letter in 2018 when there was an inquiry from the FEC, and he said, I wasn't paid back by Trump. I wasn't paid back by Trump Incorporated. Never happened. I used my own money, got it handled, and I think he took out a personal line on his house or something. But now it's like, well, is he telling the truth then or now? Also, the perjury thing makes it a little challenging. So that, they kind of went into the weekend with that, where it's like, he's not going to get charged. We're going to meet again on Monday. And so this thing is just going to go on. It's just going to go on. All right. You got any other thoughts on all this Trump crap?
I mean, I don't know if they're playing the long game on this, and then Trump's going to come back and say, see, it wasn't me in the first place.
Yeah.
There's no connection to me, except I know the guy who paid her.
Yeah, it was my lawyer that I fired. He said, he's a horrible lawyer. He went off on him before, but, he denies he denies sleeping with her. I mean, which I don't believe that at all. I'm sure he bragged about it a lot before he kind of got in trouble with it. I think it's going to keep going, but even Van Jones. So Van Jones was part of the Obama administration. Now he works for CNN. Van Jones got run out of office for being I think an open socialist or something. It was back when socialist was a bad word. Obama was like, I'm not a socialist. It's like, we got a bunch of socialists filling all these spots, socialist activists. And, but anyway, so he kind of got booted out and kind of washed through a cleaning cycle where he's good again, But somehow he's become one of the more level-headed people, on CNN. He was saying, basically, this is stupid. This is going to ruin everything. If people... It makes it seem like there's a conspiracy to get Donald Trump. He's like, makes it seem like there's a left-wing conspiracy. He's like, if this was a real effort, you'd be in Georgia about his, find me the votes. Find me the votes. He's like, you'd be in Georgia about that. You'd be January 6th. You'd be... And so, whatever about the merits of those arguments. But he's right, and that's like you're using a 6-year-old accounting misdemeanor about a 17-year-old non-disclosure agreement. Like, it's just, or maybe not agreement, but the agreement would be 6 years old, but the actual act, I guess, was 17 years old. Anyway, but it's like, it's one of these.
Seems like a reach.
It seems like a reach, and I think it seems like a reach to everybody, and people are excited about maybe seeing him arrested, but beyond that. All right, I know we don't have too much time, so maybe we'll just touch on this, and then I'll just touch on this and maybe go into it more next week. But speaking of our best and our brightest, not just one president can be in trouble, but they all can be. Hunter Biden used FBI mole named One Eye to tip him off to China probes. So this has come out. So Hunter Biden had an FBI mole named One Eye who tipped off this is New York Post, off his Chinese business partners that they were under investigation, according to an Israeli energy expert arrested in Cyprus last month on gun running charges. The House Oversight Committee is investigating the explosive claims by Dr. Gal Luft, a former Israel Defense Forces lieutenant colonel with deep intelligence ties in Washington and Beijing, who says he was arrested to stop him from revealing what he knows about the Biden family and FBI corruption, details he told the Department of Justice in 2019, which he said they ignored. Luft, 56, first made the claims on February 18th on Twitter, after being detained at a Cyprus airport as he prepared to board a plane to Israel. He said, "I've been arrested in Cyprus on politically motivated extradition request by the U.S. The U.S. is claiming I'm an arms dealer. It would be funny if it weren't tragic. I've never been an arms dealer. DOJ is trying to bury me to protect Joe, Jim, and Hunter Biden." And then I think he said, there he is. He doesn't look like an arms dealer to me.
Great cover if he is.
Right. I think he even ended that with like, "Shall I name names?" So he remains in jail waiting extradition to the U.S. over, he says, trumped up charges on arms trafficking to China, whatever. Okay, so through his American lawyer, he said that 4 years ago he tried to inform the DOJ that Chinese state-controlled energy company CEFC paid $100,000 a month to President Biden's son Hunter and $65,000 to Joe's brother Jim in exchange for their FBI connections and use of the Biden name to promote China's Belt and Road Initiative. Which the Belt and Road Initiative is basically China's kind of like take over the world plan. I mean, essentially. Luft learned about the scheme through his own relationship with Hunter's Chinese business partner Patrick Ho and Yi Jiangming, the chairman of CEFC. Look at all these pretty people. Hunter's looking rough. All right. From 2015 to 2018, Luft organized international energy conferences in partnership with Ho's think tank, the nonprofit China Energy Fund Committee, a front organization for Yi's CEFC. So they're basically a nonprofit in front of the power company. The power company is clearly run and controlled by China, and so this is just a nonprofit, but it's the same people. Excuse me. Yay. Confided to Luft that Hunter had an informant in the FBI, or formerly of the Bureau, extremely well placed, who they paid lots of money to provide sealed law enforcement information. The FBI mole was called One Eye. I hope the guy's got an eye patch. One Eye told Yi that the Southern District of New York was investigating him and or Ho in late 2017, and that an Asian, an African, and a Jewish guy walk into a bar. No, were named in a sealed indictment. I mean, who says things? Well, there's an Asian, African, and Jewish guy. It's like, why not just say the names? Soon after that tip-off, Yi offered Hunter $1 million to be his private counsel and flew to China, leaving his wife, daughter, son, mother, and nanny in his $50 million penthouse at 15 Central Park West. He was detained in Shanghai 3 months later and disappeared. So that's that guy that, disappeared, one of his previous associates. Apparently, part of that $1 million to be private counsel was for access to this corrupt FBI guy that was feeding the Biden family. Before he left New York, Yi told Ho that the coast was clear for him to come back to the U.S. On November 18th, 2017, Ho flew to the JFK airport where he was arrested by the FBI on bribery and money laundering charges. Ho was the patsy, the fall guy, says Hanuk. Excuse me. So he was convicted without calling a single witness. So yeah, he's sitting there about to go to U.S. jail. He doesn't call one witness in his favor. Just goes, all right, I'm going to jail. Prosecutors place a spotlight on that. So let's see. Hunter was paid the $1 million to represent Ho, which entailed contacting FBI sources on Ho's behalf and engaging another attorney to do the legal work. That makes sense. CFC paid a further $4.9 million to Hunter and Jim Biden in monthly installments for 14 months from August 17th. The government records show.
You are frozen.
Am I? Okay. My video. There. Oh, I'm back. Let's see.
Nope, you lost cookie abilities, I think.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell. All right, well, basically, so $4.9 million. $4.9 million between brother and son Biden over 14 months while dude's in jail while they're hollering at the FBI and stuff. House Oversight Committee released bank statements last week showing an additional $1,065,000 was funneled from a Chinese company affiliated with CFC to Hunter, Jim, and Hallie Biden, Hunter's former lover and widow of his late brother, Bo. These payments were made in increments over 3 months through Biden's associate, Rob Walker. So, there's another million. So we got 14.9. We got another mill there. There's another mill earlier. Going to all the Bidens. And I think one of these payments, it's like, oh, that's Hallie Biden. That's Hunter Biden. That's Jim Biden. This one's just labeled Biden. We don't know which Biden that is. It just is labeled Biden. Could be anybody. Anyway. Luft claims he contacted the DOJ after Ho was jailed and federal investigators flew to Brussels to interview him for more than 18 hours. But he never heard from him again. Less than 4 weeks later, Joe announced he was running for president. The DOJ had this information in March 2019 and did nothing. Congress has the bank records already, but it doesn't know the reason for the payments, the information that the whistleblower, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, basically, this cat, he's got connections in China and all over. And he said that basically part of the deal for Hunter was that he would use the FBI for the people that worked for China. I mean, they worked for the power company, but they work for China. And it's like, we'll make sure you stay out of trouble. Like, we'll stay ahead of the charges. We'll get you out of the country when you need it. You pay me. I pay my FBI informant. And he does whatever he does. And, it's all good. And they're paying the whole Biden family, which is weird because I get Hunter's the counsel. Okay. And I guess Jim maybe has a FBI friend too, because it's Hunter and Jim's connection. And then now Hallie's getting paid. What does she bring to the table? Because she's the widow. And, she got with both the Biden bros there, but, then it's like, oh, well, that's interesting. Like, it seems more and more that perhaps this Biden family doesn't keep things on the up and up. And we don't really have time for this last one, I don't think. Where are we at?
We are at 58.
Okay, yeah. But basically, there's more coming out about Joe's time as VP with Ukraine. And that, Hunter, before it was just, oh, Hunter's a private citizen and all this kind of stuff. Like, he does business and I don't get involved, obviously. But now it looks like all the messaging about Hunter working for Burisma, it all got approved through Biden's office. And, like, there's basically freedom of information emails from, like, an assistant or something. It's like, VP signs off on this message. And then, like, someone corrected all the typos that Biden had in his message, all the misspellings. And so sent that back, and the VP gives a thumbs up. So it's just like, Biden's been involved in this mess the whole time. The we sent $8 billion or something like that to Ukraine for aid back when it was Obama Biden. All that money went to Privat Bank, which is like the Bank of America type thing, but Privat Bank. And then it just kind of went away. Like it went out to, I think, Cyprus or something like that. And then from Cyprus, it was just never seen again. And so that was Ukraine. Who knows who has that money? I don't know. But, you know, the guy that runs that bank, that he also was one of the guys that started Burisma, which is interesting enough. But, you know, that was all around that time when Biden said to fire the prosecutor that was investigating Burisma and Hunter Biden's ties to Burisma, which is fine. So,
This is fine.
this is fine. We have a justice system that's going after a former president for being slimy with his personal life and then trying to cover it up. And of course, he's pretending to be just an innocent flower during this whole thing, as opposed to the guy that actually got it on with this lady and covered it up. And then you got our current guy who seems more and more corrupt by the day, and who's getting paid big money from China and using Ukraine, some sort of funds washing, because money goes in, but it seems to come back out to the Biden family. And it just seems like right now there's things going on with our country with both China and Ukraine where we probably need somebody who's not getting paid by those countries to make our decisions. You know, it's not like we're sending more money to Ukraine every day or anything like that. Man, all right, we'll wrap up with here's my conspiracy theory for the future with Ukraine, right? Okay, so what's the name of the battalion that's like the big heroes for Ukraine right now? Okay, Azov Battalion.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, like, they've been, maligned, but everyone's, no, they're good. Fiercest fighters. And so they've been kind of growing in cred, And, like, people are like, just ignore that Nazi stuff, I mean, yes, they wear Nazi insignia, and they do the little Hail Hitler thing. But ignore all of that. They're fighting for Ukraine. And so, as a globe, everyone's like, fine, And Putin's like, I told you there's Nazis. So this is what I think is going to happen, right? We stay in this war until it's over, it'll end somehow. And then we'll spend lots of money fixing up Ukraine, making it all pretty, and we'll be their keeper, the way Putin used to be. Life gets back to normal, right? So now you're a member of the Azov Battalion. You're a national hero. So maybe you want to be a mayor, governor, I don't know all their positions over there, but, regional or national politicians. And you're running your proud defending Ukraine record. Some people get elected, some people don't. But perhaps a party of parliament is essentially the Azov party, right? Okay, so these guys get elected, national heroes and all that. The Azov party grows. Next thing you know, it's just like, is Ukraine a Nazi country now? And so suddenly we'll find ourselves, I don't know, 30 years from now, and we'll be talking about whether we should go to war to take out the Nazi-minded Ukrainian nation. That's my big that's my big...
That we funded.
Yeah, I mean, we did it all. And so that's... So you started with that nugget, like, when we fund somebody, we fight them later.
It always happens.
It's over and over again. Yeah, it always happens. So finally it's like, well, why would we fight Ukraine? And it's like, they could become a Nazi state. Like, it's not an unreasonable path, right? Like, that all makes sense that it could happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So anyway, we can look forward to that.
Yay.
Yeah. All right, well, I got to go do a baby shower and all sorts of stuff. So that'll end it for this week. Please like and subscribe and do the notifications. We're on all the things. Go to loadedtalk.com. Of course, the easiest way. Yeah, you can. Well, I don't even know what to hit us up on. I was going to say the Twitters and stuff, but I can't remember what we have.
Everything.
We have everything. Find it. It's on Loaded Talk. All right, Charlie, what do you got?
Goodbye, planet Earth.
No, just temporarily.
I haven't worked on my closing yet.
That's all right. You're not our closing pitcher, I guess. All right, I guess that'll do it. Bye, everybody.